The purpose of your assignment is to evaluate 5 representations for one type of product or service. Explain and apply de Saussure's concept of the sign. So take a look at your advertisement or your product image and really break it into its pieces of signifier and signified. What does this item or what does this service signify on the surface and even deeper? What small parts of the image or the video or the audio recording or the product itself, what small details can you break into a signifier and a signified? Also, explain and apply Welby's concepts of sense, meaning, and or significance. So if you touch into her idea of sense as like the intention of what somebody is saying, or if you look at the significance that Welby herself was bringing into play with that idea that, you know, the human project is to express and to interpret meaning deeply. You can use all 3 of her keywords or any one that you like the best. But explain what the keyword means and then apply it. So show how that concept is found in the sources that you're analyzing. Explain and apply one or more of Jim Fowles' 15 basic appeals from advertising. So he's going to offer us 15 ways of analyzing advertisements. So touch on at least one of those appeals in your own work. And then you can also tackle into his larger significance if you'd like. In his essay, he argues that advertising basically seeks to influence and activate and even create deep psychological needs in the viewer. So if you want to maybe apply your essay toward that same overall significance, I guess since we've talked about Welby's overall significance with her human project of signalizing and expression and interpretation, and then we talked about Fowles' overall significance in psychology. We can talk also Ferdinand de Saussure's overall significance seems to be the idea that language is a universal issue that everybody should value and should interrogate and explore. So you could link your argument to something like that by saying advertisements is something that everybody needs to be able to evaluate and understand, because both language and advertisements are basically ubiquitous in our modern culture here in the US. So explaining and applying. And then further on your purpose, those controlling verbs, interpret, critique, and analyze. So interpret. Explain the denotative and connotative layers of meaning. Explain the role of symbols in the creation of meaning. So identify where are the symbols of this advertisement? What word is really symbolic? What image, what detail, what color, what sound? Break your advertisements into tiny little pieces as you interpret them. Critique. Identify and explain appeals and fallacies of logos, ethos, and pathos. Apply standards of evaluation to primary and secondary sources. So remember, we should interpret, critique, and analyze both the primary sources and the secondary sources. So although your interpretation and analysis of secondary sources will be more brief, it should still be there. And then analyze. Infer the underlying assumptions or logical principles in the source messages. Creatively suggest extended implications or consequences of those messages. So 2 modes of analysis that you should practice at some point or another in your essay. Every paragraph, every body paragraph should have an explanation and an application of one of those theoretical key words. It should have primary source data, more than one piece, and each piece of data should be interpreted, critiqued, and analyzed.